What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. I know that I am because I have a privilege of bringing y'all the opening battle of the CALLOUS Invite 6 play-in bracket between Pack and Siglut. This is Hclat up in the commentary booth. And I've got an absolute feature round for you. I think Pack and Siglut are both near the tops of most people's lists for contenders to make it out of this bracket and claim one of the two main event spots. I don't really know in depth the backstory of these players, but I know they're both very solid. Siglut is an ADV main through and through. I think he got his come up through the BKC channel, but he was like on the classiest supporting Johnny G2 this past SPL. Very solid player, good builder as well. He's posted a bunch of his teams on Ruins of Alph, so check those out. Pack, again, not really sure his origin. Like Siglut, he's an American player. He also has a lot of like very solid side tour performances, consistent just like good play across the board. Another very capable player. So I'm excited to see how this will play out. I think each of their styles are pretty similar to one another. I think they're both very balanced players, pretty diverse, but will I think tend to skarmory spikes type stuff more often than not. So yeah, I'm excited to see how this will play out. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into game one. Lead matchup, we have Siglut with the Tyranitar, Pack with a Metagross. We're going to see if this is a Houdini strat. It is not. Pack goes to Suicune, Siglut to Metagross. A couple standard turn ones. Metagross will resist most of the things that the opposing Metagross would throw. Pack is not respecting the boom from Metagross, and Siglut plays around it, respecting all sorts of things. Sort of has like a Scarm beatdown vibe from Pack if he's going to Suicune, and I don't know, he's sort of asking for the Metagross to boom, and Siglut pulls the trigger and hits it. Siglut's probably happy with that trade. We'll see if Pack ends up wanting that to happen. Interesting. Scarm comes out for Siglut, and Mag comes out for Pack. We're probably going to see just Scarm go down. Very trade-heavy battle so far. We're going to see if Pack has a Claydol. I think it's fairly likely at this point, and Siglut probably won't have a Gengar, given that he's shown Metagross. Tar comes back out for Siglut. He hasn't revealed anything. Earthquake still doesn't show much. Probably means it's not Pursuit, and looks like a CB meant for Pack. Clicking HP flying into the Tyranitar. That's a crazy prediction. Absolutely nails the Gengar coming in. One shot it after the sand. That's a huge swing. Pack going to be in a great spot, especially now with the Blissey that's going to just blank anything that Starmie tries to do to it. And if I'm looking at this game state, I'm thinking Siglut probably has like either a Blissey or a Jolteon or something last, some sort of special pivot. And I'm thinking that every time Pack gets that Salamence in, it's going to do some damage. So I really like Pack's position right now. This Tyranitar is going to have to get a lot done to get anywhere. We do see a Claydol from Pack. We know the Gengar is gone for Siglut, so there's going to be a free spin, presumably. Looks like non-choice band damage there from the T-Tar. Spin does come up, and yep, as I thought, it'll be able to switch moves to the HP Bug. However, the damage is probably done here. Claydol's faster too, can Earthquake and get the T-Tar into Salamence and Metagross range, which is what happens. Siglut notched the KO, but Pack will likely be able to go to the Metagross and click a big ol' Earthquake, and I doubt anything's coming in nicely on this. Starmie's going to take a lot of health from this CB Earthquake, 87. It survives, but it's definitely not taking anything else from Anymon. Siglut going to T-Tar, trying to catch Blissey. Nice move. Gets it. Pack doesn't have a very safe switch to this. He can go to Metagross once. Siglut probably was Earthquaking, trying to hit Metagross, but he hits the Mag Sack anyway. And Pack goes to Metagross anyway instead of going to the definitely faster Salamence. Perhaps a risky play to mash there, but it gets it done. He probably knew the Metagross was faster, so it's relatively safe. And yeah, Siglut having to go to Starmie at this point is not a very good look for him. Like Blissey's obviously coming in, and that sort of tells me that the last is not going to have really like anything to deal with the Blissey. He does get the freeze, force it out, and then hit Metagross coming in with a big chunk Hydro Pump, but the second one isn't quite enough to finish it off. And Metagross brings him down to last mon. Siglut forfeits. My guess is that it was a Jolteon last, and Siglut was using a pretty well-known Kurtz team, which would make sense why he forfeited and why he sort of played that game seemingly low on options after the Gengar went down. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think the matchup skews very heavily in Pack's favor, just given like Magneton plus Claydol against this team, and also the Salamence HP flying into the Tyranitar was an absolutely nuts play. Siglut hadn't shown the set. He ended up being leftovers. It seemed possible that he was banned, which makes it a little bit more tame from Pack, but just absolutely nailed the Gengar switch. I think that really just determined the game. There's no coming back from that. But yeah, without further ado, let's bring it to game 2. Let's see if Siglut can bring it back. Siglut again on the bottom, leading another Tyranitar. Pack with a Scarm this time. Siglut clicking Focus Punch. Scarm will probably take its Spike at the expense of some health. Pretty standard interaction there. Siglut shows not Choice Band and maybe not Max Attack. I could have that wrong. He may have low rolled a Max Attack on there. Gengar switches, it works. It could have met a Drill Peck potentially, but the Protect is pretty standard as well, and he gets it in freely. So a good spot for Siglut. However, it's worth noting that Siglut has a look of a Spike team. It hasn't laid spikes yet, so it won't be too hard for Pack to pivot around this Gengar at this point in the game, given that there are no layers up. Nice little maneuver from Siglut to get the Claydol in. On Zapdos, we'll see what he does here. Him staying in might be an indication that it's either a fresh draw or a offensive team planning to boom it pretty quickly. And yeah, as I thought, he has a Scarm. Yeah, it's a Scarm Mirror. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Both are showing a lot of like Spike immunes. Well, probably a pretty balanced matchup. Both are like both centered around spikes and have their own ways of dealing with it. Pack looks like he's just gonna hope that he has enough immunes to not really care. Siglut is trying to remove them, which tells me that his remaining two are probably weak to them. And yeah, that's what we see with Celebi. Given that the Tyranitar for Siglut is physical, Celebi seems like the only good Gengar switch. Which is always sketchy because it has to come in on like an Ice Punch that it's weak to and might get taunted or boomed or something like that. So Siglut's gonna have to, I don't know, make some stuff happen, tread carefully or something to maneuver a long game. I think every entry for this Gengar from Pack looks pretty scary. Pack gets Zapdos in, Siglut safely goes Celebi. Will likely recover off for free. No, he goes for a Seed. Perhaps a bit greedy, but does get some pretty relevant chip on this Aerodactyl. Siglut can go to Scarm pretty much for free right now. And that's what he does. Pack's last two are almost certainly a Tyranitar and then either a Flygon or a Swampert. Has a bit of a Superman vibe. I think given the Scarm lead, actually I shouldn't assume that it's Tyranitar either. It could be a Jirachi. But absolutely has like a Superman vibe to this team, meaning that it just like tries to stack up enough like flying Pokemon to not really care about allowing these spikes. And yeah, as we see, Flygon is the rock resist for Pack. Big Drill Peck in on the Gengar. That's very big, because as I was saying, this Gengar looks like a big threat to Siglut's team. So just doing some damage to it is big. Skarmory's spikes, well, they're already down anyway, but it's not going to be like a very viable win condition, given that Pack has at most one thing weak to them. And Siglut sneaks in the Gengar on the Wisp miss, which is big. Him having to Gengar instead of Celebi just really emphasized the point that this Gengar is a tough mon for him. Will-O-Wisp hits the Zap. On this type of team, it's almost certainly like a max special defense rest Zap, so it's probably not too big a deal. However, that Zap is just kind of dead in the water. By dead, I mean spin fodder for the Claydol. Claydol won't really kill it, but it can remove the spikes pretty effectively. And yeah, we see the Zap clicking Roar, which is probably its best like option against something like Claydol or Celebi coming in. The old BKC tar, click and focus punch on the switch out. Big crit. That's quite lucky. Pack is low on answers to this Tyranitar, sorry, after this Flygon goes down. And wow, that was a really good read on the Toxic too. Siglut has stayed and clicked HP Bug, which would have been a pretty sensible play given that Tar was out of range of the Flygon. Pack would be in a bad spot. Instead, he gets the Claydol on the way in. Not a bad move by Siglut, trying to sneak it in on Earthquake. But Pack just nails it. And yeah, we see last Jirachi for Pack. His lineup is pretty weak to Gengar. It's almost certainly like a Wish Protect Jirachi, which does not do well against Gengar. Like given that it has to spend so many turns like healing itself, this Wisp is, once it hits, will be very crippling. And if this doesn't burn, if this Fire Punch doesn't burn, I really like Siglut's Gengar from this point. Jirachi's going to be a lot less effective. We're going to see, yeah, Siglut able to like pivot around it a lot more than he would be able to. This Wish is big though. He'll be able to potentially heal Flygon, potentially heal Gengar. We may see him sack the Flygon and then go to Gengar. No, he goes straight to Gengar, and yeah, he calced that out. He knew it was safe. So it takes 49 and heals 50, back to square one. And this is a really awkward position. Claydol can get a lot of damage here if it attacks. Pack heals himself up with Giga Drain, so that's just a safe play. I was thinking there's a world where Siglut could try to Rapid Spin on a Gengar switch out, but that would have been a terrible move. That leaves both Gengar and Claydol quite low. Both are going to switch out. Hard to say who gets the better end of that. Skarmory does threaten the Drill Peck here, but Flygon is healing up, gets a Flamethrower on Skarm. Takes almost nothing from the Peck. Probably was trying to like bait out a, what do you call it, a Roar. No, Siglut's content just like taking the chip with Drill Peck. Pack sneaks Arrow in the Peck. Arrow does pretty well against Peck Skarm. Toxic is a lot more threatening as a move to it. Peck is pretty much pointless against it. And Siglut shows a secondary Rock Resist. Yeah, it feels Claydol is the only one. He would be in a really bad spot against this Arrow. However, the second Rock Slide crits. We see Metagross miss the mash. Between two Rock Slides, a crit, and the spikes, this Metagross is down to 51 already. It does have Protect, which helps longevity quite a bit. But if Siglut can't get these spikes off, this Metagross won't be able to answer the Arrow for long, especially given that Pack can just go to Skarm freely and roar it away, just like what happened right here. Celebi gets roared in. This is a free Arrow for Pack if he wants it, because Celebi basically has to recover here. Pack does take it. Celebi leeches. So this must not be a recover Celebi, because that would be crazy to not recover there, especially given that Skarm could have pecked. Another crit Rock Slide from the Arrow. A bit lucky, but also like Siglut didn't really have a good option. I think Pack would probably just continue to spam Rock Slide into the Skarm even if it hadn't crit, given that the Skarm can only do about 20 damage at a time to it. This one misses, so that sort of makes up for the crit. Siglut is just taking his chip onto Arrow. Not the worst idea. Like at some point it'll be into Claydol range and it'll be okay. However, given the Celebi's like almost dead and seemingly doesn't have recover, I'm not liking his chances of like staving off the Zapdos and the Gengar long term. Pack just continuing to play this 1v1, which he is very favored to win. Next Rock Slide will absolutely kill if it hits, which it does. Let's see how Siglut's going to dig himself out of this one. I almost think Pack can just safely sack the Gengar, and the toxic damage that Claydol takes in killing it will be enough of a trade. I end up being completely wrong about that. Siglut goes for the spike anyway. I would have clicked Psychic in his shoes, and I would have been wrong because Pack went straight for Scarm instead of Gar. Got the spike spun, which is pretty big. And suddenly all the layers are gone. Siglut has Gengar, and this Metagross, if it can just get through the Scarm and maybe get like one raise or crit on the Zap, could suddenly become a win condition. I guess he would also have to dodge a Will-O-Wisp from the Gengar. But having the spikes off does give Siglut a glimmer of hope. Rachi comes in. Wisp is not the button he wanted, but if this Gengar has, say, Taunt or Fire Punch or anything, the Drowchi's not going to live. Siglut Thunderbolts. Pack Fire Punches predicting Taunt. Siglut either held the Taunt wisely or just had to Thunderbolt anyway. But Pack gets that 20% burn, which basically kills Gengar's chances of being a long-term win condition. It's going to be dead shortly after the Rachi goes down. It's got 2 turns left now. One will be spent killing a 1% Rachi, and one will probably be wasted into a Scarm Protect. Or a Flygon Protect, by the look of it. So Siglut switches out, predicting the Protect. That's a good move. And this Flygon is likely not going to have much speed, and certainly doesn't have HP Bug, so Celebi is safe. Click Psychic, trying to take out the Flygon before dying to the Flamethrower, but Pack goes Scarm instead. Nice move. Siglut is now showing why he wasn't recovering, which is because he's got presumably three special attacks plus Leech Seed. His last move is certainly Giga Drain. It's a lot of pressure. Scarm can't spike again. Something's going to have to come in on either a Giga Drain or a Leech Seed or something. Pack just sacks, which is hard to argue with, just given the state of Arrow, or the position of Arrow in this right now. He'll probably just Rock Slide. Yep, Siglut gets some value out of the Gengar. That 1% burn Gar does get to scout out the Choice Band move, meaning Metagross is completely safe here and gets a chance to maybe get a raise or a crit or something. Zapdos lives. He does get the raise. That's danger for Pack. Zapdos probably shouldn't rest right now because he would just let the Metagross heal and get more chances to raise. He in fact does not rest. Kills the Celebi instead. He's going to die to the burn now. Tyranitar will be just outside of Arrow Earthquake range. Flygon will definitely be able to bring him into it. Gengar probably would as well. Wow, he took nothing. Does Flygon even die? No, jeez. Okay, that Flygon has like no attack and a ton of defense investment if both those attacks are doing that little. Yeah, that'll basically do it, because there is no way Metagross is living the Flygon Earthquake and then the Arrow Earthquake. He's going to need a whole lot of protects to get through this. Doesn't even go for the next one. He hits the mash. I think he's... Should we do the math on how many he needs? He probably needs to get to about 60%. So he probably needs like 8 protects. He doesn't even try it. And Pack will bring down game 2. A very solid 2-0 from Pack. I I think they look very good. He made like his share of risky moves and like almost across the board got them right. Siglut did make some nice plays, like the CALLOUS spin. I didn't think he was gonna be able to get that off like in that game, and he did, and just like really gave himself a fighting chance. But Pac just like very clearly understood like his advantage in this matchup. The Celebi was just kind of straight up overworked and didn't have any recovery, and Pac just like kept the pressure on. Eventually, just like spikes plus his fast mons were able to do it. So yeah, well done by him. Tough to see Siglut go out, but I think Pac is going into the second round with a lot of momentum. If I'm not mistaken, he'll play the winner of Sadly Seus and Voyager, which will also be a great set. But yeah, I don't know about y'all. I'm just excited to see more games. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Have a good one.